Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. This is Steve going for another video, and in this section we're going to be talking about some newer stuff. Before I do that, I wanted to kind of go back over what we went over earlier, kind of review what we already talked about. So in the very first video, what we talked about is the print statement and how to basically print numbers after it and do calculations and stuff like that. So if you want to learn more from that video, you can kind of just go ahead and check out the first video, and you'll see some of the stuff that we covered, with the print statement in general. We also talked about the variables in general. You never want to start a variable with more than 2 letters because it'll ignore all the letters after it. Instead, you can just set up a simple variable just by setting it equal to a value, which is known as a constant, which I probably didn't mention. Constant means it's not going to change unless you add like other variables to it, and you increment against it. But anyways, I'm getting some pop-ups here, excuse me on that. So what we have going on here is basically variables, and the other thing we also covered was concatenation of values, which you just saw me do earlier. So the 2 plus 4, that's concatenation. The concatenator meaning that the value is being added to another value. You can also do that with strings and all that too. That's a little bit more advanced. Next thing we talked about was in addition to these instructions, we talked about order of operations and basically taking a value and being able to assign it to, example, we could have like one value like here, let's make it 2 values, excuse me, and then you could just set something like inside of it, like 5 plus 5, can't get the 5 key working, and divided by another number times another number to understand the instructions or the order of the operations. And the order of operations is calculated by taking parentheses. So it's please excuse my dear and sorry. So it's parentheses, exponents, multiplication. Please excuse my, I have to think about it. Dear, that's why it's important to know the please excuse my dear and sorry. So parentheses, exponents, multiplication, addition, subtraction, and let's see, I probably did already. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I have to see things visually or I can't remember them very well. So please excuse, so that's parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So that's not going to do anything on the screen because that's not a value. And I never mentioned that either, but if you just said, or maybe I did, if you just try to type the word like that, it's not going to understand it because you need to follow it with a value or a string in that case. And strings are just basically put into quotes surrounding it. We're also going to basically go into this video talking more about spacing between your strings. So for example, if I put something like this in it, that's a spacing in between there. So it basically inserts a space, and you can control the length of this space and tabbing and stuff like that. I think that was pretty much all we really covered in just writing computer programs and showing you how to list them, and run them and stuff like that, and erase them with new or whatever. So the only thing I didn't cover was exponents. I talked about them, but I found the key on the keyboard. It's actually the delete key on the actual keyboard for the emulator. So if you type a value here and you raise it to an exponent like that, it's raising it to a power of a number. So see how big that number is? So 25 to the power of 2. So we'll go into more mathematical explanations in these videos, in this example too. And I also want to cover special characters. To give you a quick example, I did this in the first video, but I kind of didn't show you. I think I used this one to do it. There's not a way of doing it. Basically, you just go to your keyboard and you hold down the shift key and you press the home key like that, and it creates a clear symbol. And you can also clear the screen with that. So we'll go into more of that right now in this video. Now, also to show you in the video here, this is the book I'm getting a lot of the information from. So it's the C64 User's Manual. So it has a lot of the good examples. I'm trying to do step by step as much as I can, but kind of breaking it up in, because the whole idea of these videos is very basic. Make it very simple so even a first grader could understand it. Maybe a kindergartner, I don't know. Just very, very basic. Okay, so we'll go right into the spacing here. As quoted in my notes here, I guess that'd probably be the next best thing to do. So let's get started with that. So we'll start writing a program. You can also do this in intermediate mode as you just saw me do, but for the example of simplicity, we'll keep up with the original left off where we left off, which is writing the instructions that the computer can run. So we just learned about that first one, which was basically holding the shift key and pressing the home key, and that's a clear screen is what that does. It does the same thing as doing this, which is basically where the PET for somebody correcting me on that, stores the values in memory. Now, I'm not going to go over that a lot, but actually was a different set of characters that were done, and PET was later added to change some of the characters and stuff like that, from what I've read and understood. But anyways, the whole idea here is to show you how to write computer programs and start simple. So we're going to learn more about what are these called, these special characters, in a minute. But I just wanted to mention that first. The first thing I want to do, as I mentioned, we want to talk about the spacing. So spacing, as we've already learned about, is like typing in a set of quotes and typing whatever you want in it afterward and just executing it. So it's going to always insert however many spaces have in between there. So if I go, for example, we'll use a print statement to skip a line. If I go ahead and type something else like this and put some spaces in like that, it'll insert those exact spaces as I type them in. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to show you, the reason why I'm doing that, is I'm going to introduce a new character here in just a moment. And actually in the book it looks like it talks about this a little bit later, so we'll probably come back to that one. The next thing the book they're talking about is the special characters, so I guess we might as well go into those, which are basically really cool because you can change the formatting of how your stuff's appear on the screen, which is kind of related to this, and you can also add your own colors, which will be a little bit more interesting in this video. Now I also haven't mentioned it, but it's also a good idea to, oops, I stuck that in a line there. It's also a good idea to have, can't type today, to separate your lines by tens like this, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on. So if you need to type in a line between, you can go back and insert it since there's no renumber command for the Commodore 64. Now, I think the 128 has a renumber command, but I know the 64 does not. So we're going to go into that. Now notice I left room, as I mentioned, so I'm going to basically type a line 15 here, and I'm going to introduce some different things we can do with this. So the first thing is understanding that there's a character set built beneath the core of your computer, which I mentioned earlier, which was the PET. It's a set of characters. So if you, I don't know if I showed this in the last video, if you go like this and you type 65 there, there's an A that appears. If you type 66, it'll be B, and so on. There's a set of characters listed built into your computer's memory. The reason why I'm showing you that is so the next part of this will make sense. So let me just run this again. Kind of clear my screen. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be taking advantage of some of those special characters to insert characters. Insert characters to use the special characters that can format how our text and everything is looking. Example. So I kind of put these in a specific order. There's also the cursor control keys, like you're seeing, like right here. This is me pressing the down key. That will allow you to insert text going down the screen and so forth. But first, let's I guess we'll skip ahead here, even though they talk about those first. I'm going to move right to the colors, and hopefully I'll remember to go back to the other characters here. So, because we've kind of already learned about the spacing, but you can use the arrow keys, just like I just showed you. I'll press the arrow key down here, and it'll basically insert text down the screen here, and I'll show you what that does there. You see how it brought down underneath the marl there? Otherwise, it originally would have been printed at the top if I just left it like that. You could also use it to move text over and stuff like that. Those are just special characters built in. As I move the arrow keys here, I'm pressing, this time, the right arrow key. I guess we are going to talk about these just to kind of get them out of the way. Over to the right. And you could do the same thing with the left key. If, for example, we wanted to put something, let's move it over a little bit and then back. So we'll basically do something like this. We're at a 16. And then we'll make this one go all the way down over underneath all this text, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that should do it. So it's going to be down. And then we're going to, as we moved it down, we're going to move it over a little bit. And then we're going to move it down. And then we're also going to move it left. And you have no idea where it's going to appear. Where am I? Watch what it does here. It'll move it in funny places there. So you see, it moved it down, over, down, and to the left a little bit. So that's kind of how you can move your lines, your statements around on the screen there. So I guess the only other thing I could really cover, I should about to clear home. You can insert spaces. There's a reverse on. I guess we pretty much covered a lot of those characters I wanted to cover already. You could turn like the text on and off. You can lowercase and stuff like that. That's not really essential to really what you need right now. You can always ask questions about that later, but I don't think that's going to be anything I'd like to cover. So we'll kind of go right into the colors this time. So I'm going to erase 15 and 16 and just go back to where we were. We'll talk about the colors now to kind of keep this on track. So, as I mentioned earlier, in the Commodore character set, there's a set of characters that's stored in a special headaxe. I think of it like a bunch of boxes from 0 to 255 that store information in them. And inside of each of these boxes, you're going to have letters, numbers, and just basically their characters. So letters and numbers together, if I haven't mentioned it, that's called alphanumeric. So basically, alpha is the alphabet, and numeric is the numbers. And then also, alpha, not only the alphabet, you can also store characters and numbers together, but that gets into a little bit more advanced concepts. So anyways, let's go into the colors here. So we're going to basically take a look at our keyboard here for a second. And you notice there's number keys going across the screen from 1 to 0 on your keyboard. This will be the same on the Commodore keyboard as it would be the regular PC keyboard, or whichever one you're transmitting from a Mac or whatever. And then you basically, what you do is you type the word print just like I showed you, and you hit the number, I'm sorry, not number 1, you hit the control key, I think it was, I'm sorry, I'm doing this wrong here. It's the control key, I'm sorry. So you hit the control key, and it prints a funny looking character. So this character is basically saying after this, we're going to change the color. So I don't know which color it is. I'm just going to type color for now and see what changes here. So basically that was the orange. So I just changed all of the text orange, because as soon as I had typed this special character, instantly it changed everything down below here in that special color. Now if I just changed it down here, it would only start here instead of up there, for example. Now, also, you notice when I ran it, the Commodore is still showing the same color set on the screen. It's because it's not resetting everything. You have to do a special reset. What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to just kind of, let's see, the original color was blue, I think it is. I'm going to guess it might be 8 or 9 or something like that. Let's see if I can just change it back. Well, white's good enough, I guess. Just so I can kind of see it. So what I'm doing is I'm basically still changing the colors. Now I'm going to go down to line 20 where it says my name, and you can also list the line number after the number to see that line number. And we're going to change this into another color. I'm going to use 5 this time, and I keep wanting to hit shift. So control 5, and then we're going to type my name to get more than one color on the screen. Now if you look closely, we have white, and we also have gray on the screen. So we'll do the same thing for Is So Cool. Let's try 2 and see what 2 does. Well, actually, here's another way you could do it too. I just noticed I could change the colors here. So what I did is I basically typed a number and I backspaced to erase that special character, and then now I can kind of just change the colors to see what they look like. I should have done that earlier. Forgot about that trick. Pretty cool trick. So we could use green or something like that. What was it? Number 6. So I could use number 6, for example. So I put it back the way it was here. Okay, so let's use number 6. And I just lost my line. Control 6 is so cool. Now I've got 3 different colors on this screen. So we're corresponding to changing those colors. And if you want to change it back, you can just type the word print followed by the value again with control like by itself on immediate mode, and it'll change it back to whatever it was before. So now we got, now to mention this, if you wanted to store more characters, that there's actually from 0, I think it's to 15, that you can store. And I wrote them down in the list here, so there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Somebody only have 10 here, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's either 15 or 16, but you've got white, black, red, green, blue, brown, light red, gray 1, gray 2, light green, light blue, gray 3, purple, yellow, cyan. So those are just some of the colors that you can change the numbering to. Oops. Maybe it's this one. I'm trying to think of which other one changes the... There's another way to access the other set of colors, the ones I mentioned, like the black, white, and that. I was trying to remember how I've done this, but the keyboard emulator is so different from the regular keyboard. So I'm using Control currently. And I just changed the text too here. So if you hit the, what is that, the Shift key and the Tab key, I think it is. No, it's the Control key and the Tab key. Is it the Shift and the Tab? Yeah, oh, it's the Control and the Shift tab. That changes upper and lowercase to get to the two different character sets. Okay, excuse me, I had to play around a little bit, but I found out how to change the other keys here. Basically, and I'm just sure what I just started. If you go in here and you type in, goodness sake. If you go in here and you hold the Tab key and you press the number keys like this, you get different colors. These are going to be different colors here. And I found this cool chart online, this website, a photo bucket here, that shows the different colors for the keys here. If I can just get Camtasia to stop loading here. So you got white, red, excuse me, black, white, red, cyan, so make it a little bit bigger there, purple, green, blue, yellow, reverse on and reverse off. So there's how you basically control them by hitting the Tab key followed by that corresponding number. You can go ahead and change those and access those other colors, which I didn't know where they were before. So I left that open on my second monitor so I can kind of see the color I want, and I wanted to change it to white. Or let's do green, which is 6. So I hold the Tab key and I press 6 like that, and then we can get a green color. There we go. So I learned something new. I didn't know about the Tab keys and all that. And if we want to change the blue color back, look on our example, and it's 7. So Tab 7 will access blue. You can't see it because it's in the background. Because I turned the text. I just turned the text blue here, so I need to kind of turn it back to something else here real quick. So I can see it again. So we'll take that one out, and we'll try a different color. So we're going to press the Tab key again, and we're going to use 8, which is yellow. Whoops. You got to hold the Tab key, excuse me, and hit the key. I'm saying press, you got to hold it, and then type it for that color to come up. Now the text defaults to yellow. So we learned about some pretty cool stuff to change the text in this example. I wanted to go into spacing, as I mentioned. I guess I'm not going to have time to go into all the other stuff like I wanted to, because I don't want to make these videos super long or anything. My computer's doing funny stuff on this other side here, so excuse me on that. Alright, so next we're going to learn about the spacing. Now I already showed you about doing the spacing by hitting the quotes and just typing stuff inside of here and putting your spacing. There's another way to do that. It's called Tab. So Tab will officially, move your cursor over however many positions you put inside of these two parentheses, the open and the closed parentheses. So for example, if I type in 12, it's going to move it over 12 spaces. And you'll see it move to 12 spaces over. So however many you put in here is what's going to control. Now another thing I wanted to go in here to mention is there's another command. It's called SPC. I think it stands for space. And it controls specific spacing. So let me show you what that does here. Actually, I'm going to use my old shortcut with the question mark 2 instead of the print to save some typing here, since my hands are recovering from a workout. And you see how it moved over. So what it does is it counts the number of spaces after you have entered the text, and it moves the cursor over that amount of lines. So in this example, we moved it over 4. So if we change this to 2 or whatever, we move it over 2. And now it moved it over 2, so there's an extra space in there. So it looks like I will have enough time to go over the calculations like I wanted to. I'm just going to show you a few of the simple ones. Let me see how much room I got on the screen still. Looks like I have just enough room. I'm going to take out some of these lines, so I'm going to basically just remove some lines here, just to kind of free up some room. I think that's good. And then we're also going to, let me see. We could probably set this on the top line instead of moving this one down. But that was our example, so I guess we'll leave that in there. Okay, so I guess that's good. Let's go on to the next one here. I'm always using a print to kind of skip spaces between, so it's easier to kind of read it. Now I'll show you that this, first of all, works in immediate mode. So you can type this in immediate mode. Print SQR, number follow after it. What that means is this is calculated as the square root of 25. So 5 times 5 equals 25. Whatever number you put after there is a number that's going to be squared. Sometimes giving you pretty strange results. We could type that in here. We could let's do a sentence here. The square root of 25 is, and after that we could just put it at the end. Now you see me doing this stuff at the end like this. What I'm doing is I'm actually adding a concatenation without using plus, multiplication, or anything like that. It's another way that you concatenate, especially in Basic, Commodore Basic. So what I'm going to do is type in SQR25, and you'll see it'll give me the same results with, actually I should put a space in there so it looks fancier. You can just type the space, but you don't need the space command for that. And there you can see the square root of 25 is 5. It actually put too many spaces in here. It may already do a space. I didn't realize it did that. So apparently it seems to insert the space there for you. That's interesting. Okay, so the next thing we'll learn about will be another mathematical command. Now I covered this earlier. I mentioned it, but I didn't really show it. It's called integer, and we'll type an example here and run it. You'll see the number there is showing 4. So basically, what this is doing is it's taking the value of this 4.25 and it's ignoring the decimal point after it. So it's basically converting this to a whole number. It's called an integer. So we could just print that one out and make it look all fancy. The integer of 4.25 is, once again, our trick. Then we can run it. And we see 4.25 is 4. Next thing we're going to talk about is something called the absolute value, and I'll print it and show this one to you. This is according to the book. So you see a 10.6 on the screen, but notice in the program here, I typed in negative 10.6. So what this basically does is it removes the negative sign and converts it to a positive number. So this is written as this. The absolute value of 10.6 is, and just type it afterward again, 10.6. So absolute value at 10.6 is 10.6. Oh, I forgot to put the negative in there. My fault. That didn't make sense, did it? So absolute value of negative 10.6, find my negative sign, is negative 10.6. Run it again to be sure. There we go. Looks good. Alright, let's see. So, next thing, I mentioned this very frequently, like at the very beginning of the last video. It's something, actually, let me see. No, we just talked about that. So, what was I going to talk about here? I guess we do have time to go into the next instruction. I didn't want to make these videos too long. I'm trying to think. The first video was about 45 minutes or so. I guess I could probably go into this just to make it a little bit entertaining and kind of move things a little quickly here. So hopefully I'm not going too fast for you. That's the whole purpose of this very basic stuff. Just remember what the highlight here. These are just basically changing the color after it, the characters, by using that control key and the number after it, to whatever number key you're pressing, to change that color. And then tab does the same thing. You can also hold tab down in immediate mode and you can change the colors too to see those individual characters. So tab 1, tab 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. And then everything else here I was talking about was the tab and the spacing, and space allowing this to shoot over or to move over 2 spaces or whatever you type in that value there. And then we just talked about the square root, and then we talked about integers and absolute values, and of course the concatenation afterward, which follows this quote, followed by the command itself. That's how you get it to follow right afterward. So hopefully that makes sense and is not too complicated for beginners. We'll go on to the next thing I wanted to do, which was basically a loop. I'm not sure this would be a good example, because if I loop this now, it's going to get stuck in the loop. So I think what we're going to have to do is maybe lose this program, unless I can think of a way to loop this without going into any more advanced stuff for you. Okay, I was debating whether to show this one or not, but I guess I'm going to. First, before I'm showing you that, I'm going to show you how to turn the reverse on and off. If you hold the tab key after you type the quote here and you press the 9 key, that turns on what's called reverse mode. And you can turn it off by hitting the tab and the 0 key, which it's too late to do it there. So let's type this again. You got to do it all inside the exact quote. So I type tab 9 and type the message, and then I hit tab 0 and I can turn off the reverse mode so we don't leave it stuck in reverse mode. And you'll see it change the reverse mode. So it reverses the letter and puts the background in where the characters are there, and it turned it back off again. So what was I saving here for you? I was going to show you, if you look, but you might not be able to see it. You won't be obviously able to see it on the keyboard, the PC keyboard, since that's not the purpose of the PC keyboard. But if you look on your Commodore 64 screen, if you have one Commodore 64, if you look on your Commodore and look below here, right below the characters there, trying to see my tiny little visual there, and you'll see underneath there that there's characters under each of the letters and everything else there. Those are the special graphics characters that are built into your computer to print stuff. This will go more an example later with when we're using the CHR strings command, but I wanted to show you that they're there. So I'm holding down the shift key here, and I'm magically accessing those individual characters underneath the keyboard there. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. And there's more, but they're kind of ways that you can draw on the screen. A lot of these you'll see in here, like the heart, the spades, or for like card games and stuff like that. But probably we'll talk about those more. I noticed the book didn't really go into a lot of examples on those, which is why I wanted to cover these, just in case you know, we went that far and we never got back to it. But that's a way of creating your own graphics characters. So if you look them up in a chart, or if you have this example right here, you can actually see here underneath here that these are the graphics characters that are hidden under your keyboard. Now, I use the shift key there. You can also use the control key, I think it is, and get more of them. Yeah, there's the rest of it. Hit the control key, you get the rest of them right there. So I wanted to show that to you. And essentially, that's where I'm going to leave this video off. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the last one, because the next thing I really wanted to talk about was looping, and I can't set a loop in this program, otherwise this is going to keep looping, and it's going to ruin the purpose of this program to begin with. So since that's a more different type of a topic, we're going to save that for the next video. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and look forward to getting more videos out there like this for you. Now, I'm not going to sit there and promise a series or anything. The fact that I don't promise it will probably, you know, force me to actually do it for a change. But anyways, yeah, please like and subscribe this video, and feel free to throw your comments out there for any questions you may have, and thanks for watching, guys.